Roach, well, obviously he's a solid fighter. Um, but for me, Tank Davis is in the elite class of boxing right now. He's just in the higher altitudes of the sport. He's in the top five for me. When you talk about the top five best pound for pound right now, you're saying so. And for me, he's there not just because he's a puncher, because he's an all-round package. He can box, he can counterpunch, he can go get you, he can go to the body, go to the head, put punches together. His defense is responsible, he's patient, he's mentally together. As I said,
He's a good fighter, of course, but in my opinion, Tank Davis is in the top 5 of boxing right now. He's in the upper echelons of the sport, and when you talk about the top 5 best pound for pound right now, you're doing what you're saying, and for me, he's there not just because he's a punch. He's a complete package. He can box, he can throw a punch, he can go to the body, he's patient. He's mildly together.
Both of them is true. I feel like Lamont's definitely a solid opponent. He's moving up. I feel like Tank, he tried to fight Loma, and I don't really know what happened with Shakur, but I know Loma didn't want to take the fight, and I don't really know what happened with Shakur, just didn't fall through. So, Lamont's a next solid opponent. He's moving up, he's chasing greatness, and Lamont's a very solid fighter. A lot of people are overlooking him, but it's definitely going to be.
Teddy Atlas boldly asserted that the Gervonta Tank Davis, a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter, is preferring Tank because he feels that Tank's skill set is too great for Lamont Roach. Carmel M., on the other hand, saw Roach as a strong fighter who was rising and aiming for greatness.
I think it's going to be interesting. Like I said before, I think it's going to be interesting. Probably for maybe the first half of the fight. I think the first half of the fight is going to be a little interesting. I still think Tank is going to just be able to physically overwhelm Roach. You know what I'm saying? I think Roach is probably going to try to move out of box and stuff like that. But I think Tank is going to physically overwhelm him later on in the fight.
Whereas Tank might have had other possible opponents. Rashawn feels that many people underestimate Rashawn and that this fight may be more competitive than many think because Rashawn stood up when others didn't. Both of those are true, and I believe that Lamar is a strong opponent. I believe that he attempted to fight LMA, but I'm not sure what happened with Shakur. I don't know what happened with Shakur, but it didn't work out.
Roach is flat-footed. He's flat-footed, he's slow on his feet. He's not the fastest guy on his hands. He doesn't have like hellified defense or anything like that. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get with these guys. When you're dealing with Tank, Tank, he gives away the first half of the.
Lamar is a very strong fighter, and that many people are ignoring him, but it will be a great fight. However, Gary Russell Jr. has a different perspective on how the fight will unfold. He anticipates that Roach will have some early success using his boxing prowess and movement to keep things interesting, but that won't last as the fight progresses.
I don't see an upset in this fight. I don't see the Tank train being derailed no time soon. You feel me? The guy's just, like I said, complete fighter, can do it all, box, got a high IQ, and he's a gambler in there. He take risks in the ring like nobody else. You know what I mean? You get your shot off, but then he gonna get his off. And that's when shit get crazy. You feel me? When he start landing his. So, yeah, I can't wait for that fight, man. I hope Roach comes with his best game plan. And that's what these fighters are supposed to do.
Because Russell thinks Tank's physicality will take over and overwhelm Roach. As I previously stated, I believe it will be interesting, at least for the first half of the fight. I believe that the first half of the fight will be somewhat interesting, but I still believe that Tank will be able to...
Tank is a big mountain to climb, man. And when he's on his game, he's hard to beat, if not impossible to beat.
Physically overwhelm Roach. Roach will likely attempt to move out of the box and other similar tactics, but I believe that Tank will physically overwhelm him later in the fight. Roach was described as slow, flat-footed, and deficient by Gary Russell Jr.
about Roach.
Yeah.
Tank Davis. Listen, Tank Davis, no one beating him. The guy is a beast. I mean, the guy's a good boxer. Yeah, the way he's been fighting, honestly, is yeah. I mean, whoever they put in front of him, he destroys.
Who wasn't convinced of his prospects. He pointed out that Davis has a tendency to give away the first half of fights. So if Roach can capitalize early, he might have a chance. But Russell didn't seem to be convinced it would matter in the end. Elite defense is the type of fighter who won't bother someone like Tank. This Roach is slow on his feet, flat-footed, and not the fastest on his hands.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
is it pay-per-view? Is it pay-per-view worthy?
Nah, not really. Not really pay-per-view worthy, but it's another fight for boxing, another fight for Gervonta Davis. Truly incredible fighter. But I don't think. I think if this is something that fighters that the fans need to fight for. We need to start retaliating with our dollars, and that means not paying for a Gervonta Davis, Lamont Roach.
He also lacks a defense that is like hellified or anything. Music, you get what you see when you deal with these individuals. He gives away the first half of the butt when you deal with Tank. Antonio Tarver took a different view of the situation and believed that, with other names out of the picture,
I don't know why everybody is kind of sleeping on Lamont, but he has a decorated amateur career too. He's a very sturdy kid. He's very skilled. Tank is Tank. And when I say Tank is Tank, I mean like he's a bad man. He can fight. He's tough.
this fight made sense, especially given the culture in which Tank is a superstar and Roach is well known in the DMV. Tarver expects Tank to make an appearance, but for Roach, it all comes down to whether he can step up to the plate. After more thought, I believe that it was most likely the only opponent you know among all the other guys you know. But when everything is taken into account, it's probably the only guy that makes sense. You know that he's a regional American guy that everyone knows, including the hood and the culture.
I mean, he's the opponent right now. You know what I mean? Because circumstances with other fighters. I think Shakur injured, De Los Santos injured, and other guys I think just got other plans. You know what I mean? To boil it all up. Roach is a sturdy opponent though. Roach is no slouch. You know what I mean? You can't sleep on Roach. I know that. I know they also got history. I know, you know what I mean? There's also things they haven't talked about that they do know about each other. You know what I mean? So I think we in for a good fight for that.
Who knows who DV is and who Tank is? As a result, this will be one of those fights where you know that Tank will be able to perform, and Roach will need to be at his best, but don't be fooled. Since Tarver doesn't think Roach has what it takes to derail the Tank train, he doesn't see any trouble coming. Davis's high IQ.
As far as his ability, Roach is a good inside fighter. You know what I mean? He got the good jab. He got the good basics. You know what I mean? Strong kid. Not the hardest puncher, but he will hurt you. And you know, he doesn't have a flashy style. You know what I mean? He more so just getting in where he can find it. You know what I mean? Getting in where he can find it. Trying to score shots. You know what I mean? If he can get the knockout, he will.
Fighting prowess and risk-taking attitude make him just too complete. The risk lies not just in Tank's strength, but also in his mindset. He will take a shot, but when he fires back, that's when things turn serious. Most fighters wouldn't do that. I don't think this fight will end badly, and I don't think the Tank train will be derailed anytime soon. As I mentioned earlier,
we all know Tank, explosive, crafty, fast, good footwork, predator, so on and so forth. So it should be a good.
Box is a complete fighter with a high IQ, and he's a gamble in the ring. You know you get your shot off, but then he's going to get his off, and that's when underscore get crazy. For Tarver, that's precisely why this fight is an uphill battle for him. Tank is a mountain to climb, and when he's locked in, defeating him isn't just difficult. It might be impossible. Tank is a formidable opponent, and when he's playing at his best, it's difficult, if not impossible, to defeat him. Tank isn't just a brilliant boxer.
Can't overlook anybody, especially not at the top level. Everybody knows how to fight. And Tank and Lamont Roach have been acquainted with each other since they were young fighters. And, you know, just coming up in the game and knowing each other, the comfortability, that's still something that could threaten one another. But I feel like Tank gonna come out on top at the end of the day. But Lamont's fight gives people, you know, a tougher fight.
He's a beast who easily dispatches opponents. Amir Khan didn't hesitate to say this, believing that Tank destroys anybody who stands in front of him. He sees no one in the division who could stop him, much alone him. I'm not too knowledgeable about Tanks. I mean, the man is a good boxer, and the way he's been fighting honestly is, well, whomever the point is for me, but Davis, listen, Tank Davis. No one is defeating him. D. Chies, but not everybody is enamored. Blair Cobbs referred to the battle.
I think if you understand the history of D.C. and Baltimore, and then I'm familiar with Roach and them camp a little bit, because I'm cool with people that's tight with them and stuff like that, so we all kind of encounter each other. I don't live nothing but 2.5 hours away, right? I wouldn't see none of them coming and laying down, and then Tank is Tank. I think you're going to get a DMV classic. Like, you're going to get a good fight. They're going to fight each other. Lamont going to fight Tank. You know what I'm saying? So for however long it lasts, or for however long the fireworks is, you know what I mean, going on, he going to fight him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's going to come out there to
As such, rather than merely questioning it. Unworthy of pay-per-view, he respected Tank as a great fighter. But he didn't think this fight was worth the money. In his opinion, boxing fans should stand up and stop funding bouts that don't interest them. Fans shouldn't be forced to purchase tickets for Davis versus Roach because it's simply another bout. No, I don't think so. I mean, is it pay-per-view worthy? No, it's not really pay-per-view worthy, but it's another boxing bout for a really amazing fighter named Gervonta Davis. If he is...
Certain brands when it comes to like bigger names don't mean it's always the best fight when it comes to skill, and that's where I get where you coming from. But Lamont Roach, we know he don't got a big name. Good fighter. Champion 130. The thing is, when it comes to Lamont Roach, where I say, but people don't know, they be like taking cherry picking. But how is Tank cherry picking when literally he's supposed to be right now like the face of boxing right now, like most popular, especially Black American.
We should start taking revenge with our money, you know. And that means not paying for a Gervonta Davis fight. Clarissa Shields, however, pushed back against the criticism and reminded everyone that Roach has a distinguished amateur background and isn't just some easy opponent. Shields acknowledged that Tank is a dangerous fighter, a bad man who can do it all, but she also made it clear that Roach has the skills to make this fight interesting. I'm not sure why everyone seems to be sleeping on the M.
Lamont could box, he's an all-around good boxer, but I don't think he has anything to make Tank respect him, so I expect Tank to stop him mid-rounds.
But he had a successful amateur career as well. He's a very talented kid. And when I say Tank is Tank, I mean that he's a horrible guy who can fight and whatnot. Greg Hackett also offered his opinion, pointing out that the reason Roach is receiving this opportunity is because other well-known individuals were unavailable. Roach is not a pushover. Even though Edwin De Los Santos and Shakur Stevenson are coping with ailments and others have...
Gervonta Tank Davis just been released to the public. We know now, December 14th, Houston, Texas, he's going to be facing a very tough opponent in Lamont Roach. Can you tell us a little bit about the history between them two?
Oh man, they've been knowing each other from the amateurs, silver gloves, everything. They grew up actually together, you know. Roach and him back and forth battles and whatnot. It's gonna be a pretty interesting fight, you know what I'm saying? Because Roach he come to fight. And I think it's a great fight. Everybody talking all that stuff about why Roach? Because he signed and took the fight, you know what I'm saying? And it's good for the community.